So it should then click into Instagram in a second, and we should now be live on YouTube and Facebook.
Girls are saying no.
Why is it not working today? Okay, this is super strange.
All right, babe.
Oh, it says unable to connect on Facebook. Sending data. But it does say that we're live on YouTube. So Facebook must just be having a moment. Because we need Facebook, really. Okay.
Rachel said she's had a notification to say we're live, but we're not.
Okay. I think I need a new streaming key for Facebook. But we are now live on Instagram. So Instagram is up and running. We just need Facebook. So I will jump in on Facebook, but people start coming into Instagram and the YouTube.
Okay, darling.
So we'll have people coming in while I get this sorted, and I'll be able to see comments from. Oh, Terry's watching. Hi, Terry. I'll be able to see comments coming in from the Instagram and Facebook here. Okay. So I just set this up as a live. Okay.
Good things come to those who wait, Paige.
They do. They historically have done.
There you go.
Okay. Right. I'll ask everybody to find us a streaming key on Facebook so that we can go on there. But we can get started on here and then just filter across as we find one. Right.
I think YouTube, they're saying it's not available on YouTube at the moment. Or is it?
Really? Okay. I'll let them check that. And if not, we can start again.
We are on there.
Okay, right, I'll try the streaming key again. So we've got India, we've got Katie, we've got Terry watching on the Instagram so far. Okay, go live.
This must be very boring for them.
Right, stream setup. It's all right. It's every single time. I'm like, I get it all sorted, and then it decides to have a moment. But we will get there. We will get there with it. Okay. I think let's just get started on Instagram and YouTube, and then as we get a streaming key, we can then jump in on Facebook. Okay, so how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, darling.
India said, would you prefer us to watch on a different platform? Is one better? No, all of them are the same. We've got Taylor and Rex's mum here as well, and little Hurdy. So we've got a couple of people watching on the Instagram. All the platforms are fine. We're on Instagram and YouTube. Facebook is having a bit of a moment, but we're getting that sorted. So, Joe, it's super nice to have you on here and be able to talk to you about everything that you've done and your history and everything. I just wanted to start by announcing to everybody that you are our new breed advisor, or you have been for a little while now, and you've been on board with us for a bit of time now, haven't you?
I have. It took some special people to get me out of the shadows, and I decided to back you both because I really like what I've seen. I like your dedication to the breed, and I'm impressed. So yeah, takes a lot, but you two was able to do it for me.
Oh, thank you. We absolutely love having you. Your knowledge and your history is just incredible. So to be able to talk to everybody about it, I'm actually really looking forward to this live for me more than anyone else. So okay, right. Yeah, okay. So can we start by, can you tell us how you first got into the breed? How did you find out about the breed? What did you like about them? When did you get your first dog? How did everything start?
Okay, so I had a bull mastiff, and she had bone cancer. She died of bone cancer, and I was just looking for another breed. It wasn't, at the time. I think the write-ups were they were good with other dogs. They were like really good with all these different things. And at the time, we didn't have pets at homes or for homes. We had the free ads, and I found Cane Corso, and I googled the breed as I do. And, I really liked what I saw. I spoke to the breeder. I wasn't that impressed when I spoke to him. He had a dog called Campo Cavello de Panther, which may be the sire to 90% of the UK dogs back in the bloodlines now. And he had started breeding from John Lowestock, who was a puppy farmer. And something didn't really sit right for me, and I'd researched that you needed hip scores and everything like that. So I couldn't find a litter in the country, in the UK, for maybe like 3 weeks. Patience is not my virtue. So I found a breeder in Holland, who at the time she had like 2 litters on the ground. And me being me, again, I did my research on that breeder, and I spoke to actually Nancy Copper, who generated and created the Cane Corso database back in 2003. It was my first phone call with her. And she told me that the breeder that I found were great. I phoned Jose and Eric, and I was like, I think it was Thursday. I was like, yeah, come and see you on Saturday. And she put the phone down and said to Eric, there's a crazy English woman that says she's done all right on Saturday. And they never thought I'd turn up for one moment, and I did. Me and Mark drove. I think we took the boat. I'm not sure. We ended up in Holland 10 o'clock on the Saturday morning, and he chose me. My Vigo chose me. There was an indoor and an outdoor bit, and I go to the indoor bit, and then he had a little white stripe, and I'd see him, and then I'd go to the outside bit, and it'd be exactly the same puppy with this stripe. So he chose me. We at the time, 2000 and maybe 2003. You couldn't import, like you had to go into quarantine, and I was really conscious that I had a child and I wanted the dog to be socialized. So we took it upon ourselves then. Our mission was every 3 weeks we would go to Holland to see Vigo. And we got married in August, and we took him with us to a honeymoon. So he went all around everything, and he was just magical. He was magical. It was amazing. Unfortunately, my Vigo had a trait that if you stared at him in the eye, he would just give you a little grumble. He was the most sound dog, but at the time, dogs didn't growl. Not in my experience. If a dog was going to growl, it was going to bite someone. So I had to get my head around that really quickly. He wasn't. He was just like, oh. His temperament was, to this day, something I wish I had embraced in my program a bit more. So I digress, but yeah, that was Vigo. So Vigo came over, and in the time that we were importing Vigo, I'd created the Friends of Cane Corso. So I already kind of made myself a little bit of a community there, and that was a really, we didn't have Facebook then. I sound very old, but we didn't have Facebook. There were forums and stuff like that. So we started that, and that kind of grew, and I don't know, my obsession just never disappeared. And Mark said to me, why don't you go and get a female, And that's really how Bowling Cane Corso started. I was very, very blessed enough to meet Sergio Alberto Fossa Corno, because back in them days, people just couldn't get dogs out of Italy. There was bait and switch going on, and there was just definitely not good dogs coming from Italy, you know, and I didn't really want to risk a puppy because you have no knowledge of what that puppy's going to turn into. You know, I needed a health tested female. So I ended up with Byla, who was a HDA. Her mum was a HDA, and I was able to spend some time with Byla and told her the Majesi. It was a Majesi line. And Byla's father was Ettore. And she had already had a litter in Italy, HDA. So I felt like it was a pretty sound choice. And then there was my wild horse in the kennel at the back, my 12. And we decided that we were going to breed her with him. He was a HDA again. His mum was Bora, the Italian champion. And she was a HDC. So I thought, you know, this is a very good litter for me. And it's actually crazy because Alberto and Sergio told me that Byla was empty. Like, this story doesn't, most people not know this, but they said she was empty. Alberto was a vet. Alberto was on the board of SAC, and he also was a vet. So Alberto did this thing that he used to feel the stomach and know if they were pregnant or not. Don't even ask me why. So they told me that she wasn't, and that, you know, but I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to leave her there. So we actually drove all the way to Italy to collect Byla, not pregnant. And I was giving her a bath. And I think Mark and Alberto came in, and Mark was like, how do you, oh no, I was bathing someone else. I was bathing another dog, and they were at the back of Byla. And Mark was like, well, how do you do this thing that you feel when you, and Alberto went like this, and he was like, she's pregnant, and like, oh my God, and they come running in, she's pregnant. So it was really crazy that the female I'd gone over that wasn't pregnant was pregnant. So that is how it all started.
That's amazing. I absolutely love hearing about all of the original dogs that you've had. So can you tell me about the lines that you started with? So there are some, so some of the dogs that you've mentioned while you've been talking are very well known in pedigrees and quite famous. So can you tell me about like your lines, why you decided to go with certain lines, what you were looking for?
So I was just looking for, really, health was my biggest thing, and knowledge of the lines. Ettore turned out to be, you know, he was good, but it was the Kobe side of 12 that always was going to be a stickler for me with temperament. But you know, health unfortunately was my driving force, and the original temperaments were very strong, and that's something that I never wanted to water down. But also you have to be very careful, and this is why I truly believed that, you know, the Cane Corso is not a dog for everyone, and as a breeder you have to make sure, I did, that my litters were all sold before they were even conceived, because you almost have to become a dog handler to own a Cane Corso. So my lines, so yeah, of course I was lucky. I had, you know, Majesi, then I had Ettore, and he was like a world champion. Dukes and Aria from Bora's side was Peppino. I'm not very good with the pronunciation of this name. Sorry, Peppino, if you're watching. I was lucky enough to be a judge in Holland with Peppino, and he had bred Bora. And Bora is a crazy story, because literally Alberto was crazy about the Cane Corso, and they said to Alberto, then breed that you like is tied to a tree in the village of wherever. And Alberto went and got Bora and found her owners and got the pedigree, and that's when she became Italian champion. But yeah, so the lines, I was lucky. I knew what lines I wanted to avoid, but they were just, you know, I think when I got Amelia, she was like a nice brown pedigree that you don't even get, and there was like two generations, and that's it. So yeah, I was very lucky with my pedigrees, and I just got different lines. You know, I was lucky enough to get a Puderium, a couple of Puderium dogs. Obviously, I had Majesi, which was a kennel that I really, really liked. Delapio evaded me, unfortunately. I fell in love with Moana and Sofia Delapio at the World Dog Show, and they were absolutely the most spectacular females I've ever seen in my life. But he was a baker, and he just bred Cane Corso on the side. And I nearly got one, but just it was just that line I couldn't get. So, but I got all the other ones that I needed.
You did, yeah. So we've had quite a lot of people come in, and people are listening. People are really enjoying what you're saying. We've got quite a few people, but I'm not sure that we're on Facebook yet, so I will get that sorted. But tell me about 12, because we've talked about 12 a lot, and I love to hear about him. He is, again, a very famous dog in a lot of people's pedigrees.
12 was a force of nature. He was every bad thing and every good thing rolled into one. Literally, I'd throw his food into his kennel, and I was like, "Oh, come in, can I see you, 12?" So I'd go in there, and he'd like jump. He was never aggressive. He just was rambunctious. He was just a powerhouse of the dog. And I'd get him out. I just had no fear. I was absolutely crazy. I'd get him out, and he'd like have a stick, and the stick would be gone. He was partial to a cat. He didn't like cats. He was partial to anything that moved, actually. Any small animal that moved around 12. It didn't move for long, unfortunately. But his prey drive. He was a pussycat to me. He was a pussycat, and actually, I have a story about 12 that I actually still can't believe it to this day, because if you knew him, it'd be crazy. So when we first imported, literally, so I was like, "Oh, I want to use 12." They're like, "Yeah, okay." And they never asked for him back. I know why. He for the first year, he slept on Sergio's brother's bed, and he ruined him. And then he was just a wild thing. And Mark put a steel radial tire, I'll never forget, on a stick in the play area, and he just ripped it apart in about 2 minutes. He had no teeth.
Oh my gosh. I think Mark's just commented on the Instagram stream and called him a hooligan. I feel like that's accurate. So for those that don't know, 12 is Colpo Grosso. So when you look back in the pedigrees, he's listed as Colpo Grosso. And India has commented to say, "Isn't it lovely that back then you didn't realize the lines that sat in front of you?" So I think for me, it's to hear about, so the dogs that I can see on generations back in pedigrees, the fact that you knew them, owned them, loads of dogs that you've met. It's amazing to hear about them firsthand, because now it's dogs that you just read about. So it's amazing to know about them firsthand.
Not that you're beautiful at reading the pedigrees, but I have to I 3 pages on, and then I'm in familiar territory. I was very lucky. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to learn as much as I could. So I went to every Raduno. I went to every World Dog Show. For maybe like 3 or 4 years, I went to every Raduno there was in Italy. And then I met so many lovely people, and the education days and stuff like that. So I was really lucky that I knew the breeders, because you email a breeder and you're a blank face. I knew these breeders. I had relationships with them, good ones and bad relationships, but I had relationships for sure. I never forget, at one Raduno I saw Shaka, and she had Yolis Celioi, beautiful female, and she literally had her off the lead, and she was so well trained. And I was subsequently, I did get a boy from Shaka. Shaka was a very big influence in my life. There was also a lady called Sandra Smith, and she bowed out the breed in the most tragic way. She was shipping her dogs, and the air conditioning went faulty, and it pumped.
Oh no!
So she lost her kennel, and she was amazing. She was a German lady, and I learned a lot from her. She knew a lot. Dennis Ali from Romania. I had my Amanda from him. He was very close to me. We started at the same time. To see him go and do all that he's done has been amazing. So yeah, it was wonderful. So I did meet a lot of all the dogs. Like, I remember Chino being brought into the ring, and we had to clap, and Byron and all these dogs that are historical. I was able to meet them, and the breeders. So Martinotti, there's so many. There's so many. And then my journey took me outside of the FCI, because it is very difficult to breed the Corso in general. You've got all the health implications that you have to navigate, and then you have the obviously temperament, and then you have, you know, them looking like frogs or Labradors or all kinds of things. Shauna Del Moss from Castlegar kind of also said to me once that the standard means something. Everything in the standard means something. So if this is the angle of this, it's for a reason. If this is the angle of this, it's for a reason. I suffered from cruciate ligament in my kennel. It wasn't, you know, terrible. I had, on retrospectively, I had better health. I had good health. That yes, of course, I had instances, but they weren't every litter, and you know, they were few and far between. But things like cruciate are quite hard to deal with. You know, it's a big operation, and you have to be insured. And I now know that insurance companies, you know, they're swerving from that, and that is because of the lack of angulation, which I see. The lack of angulation is a key for me of sign of sometimes good breeding, but also bad breeding. You know, not getting that. If you've got that, you need to get somebody with the right angulation, and you know. So yeah, the standard is a really complex thing. It's it was written, and then you have I think a 12-page comment on the standard. And if no one has found the comment of the standard, I would definitely suggest you Google that and read it, because it's an even more layers of the breed standard, because the FCI standard is quite small.
Yeah, the FCI standard is a bit shorter, but I'm really interested in that. Actually, I have to go and find it, because that's something that I haven't heard of, there being comments on the standard, other than there having been multiple standards. So do you know, I don't know if you know anything about the multiple standards, or what kind of was happening in the time when you first came into the breed, standards wise, or is it just FCI that you dealt with primarily?
Iccgb had the first breed standard. You know, we had the Iccgb is the Italian Kennel Club. And when they all, you know, they all got together, they all got their farm dogs together in a, you know, a huddle, and they chose one or two that they decided. So you had everything that looked, so you had Vizier and Boulan, and everything that looked like this wasn't a Cane Corso on that day, and everything that looked like this wasn't. And we had a moment in time of two dogs that never reproduced themselves anyway, and then that was the breed standard. So we were up against it to begin with. We were with a functional farm dog that they turned into a breed. So you were always going to have. It was fun. It was fun back then, and then they decided to do a little bit underhanded, little jiggery pokery with different breeds, a little bit here, a little bit there. So yeah, it was. It's always been complex back then. So now, if you get a good dog and good lines, I think you're very lucky. There's a couple of my friends that Artisan Cane Corso in the Czech Republic. I'm blessed to have one of their beautiful dogs. And Katja and Felice, they have the Melossi Ibon in. She was the president of the Belgium Cane Corso Club, and she fell in love with an Italian. It was like a little love story. So they are now in. Oh, beautiful people. So they're in the north of Italy. Lucky enough, again, I've been to their kennel, and there is a dog from them in this country that is with a friend of mine. So they do some good, you know, good dogs. And it is very rare to see good dogs now.
We've had a comment come through on YouTube about the standards. So it says, was ENCI based on Basir, or was that the FCI
no, the
standard?
Standard was the one with all the farm dogs. They wrote the first standard based on the farm dogs that they had I think it was a Puglia, I don't know, a meeting that they all had. So, and everyone was to bring their farm dog with them. And then they decided, so Vito Indevri, who was a traveling salesman, and at my time was actually out of the breed. He was like Voldemort. Everyone knew him, but no one saw him. It was like Vito. And he was the man. He was a traveling salesman that went around and went, "Oh, that dog looks like that dog," and realised that these Italian farm dogs all had, you know, there was a breed of sorts, and then they tried to recover that breed and make the Cane Corso. So Bazir and Bullock, they were the first standard, which was the Iccgb standard.
Yeah. So talking about the Radunos and all of the things that you've been to, who, this might be a bit of a difficult question because there's probably a lot, but who are some of your favorite people that you met? So we hear a lot of big names, but who, and there's loads of pictures as well of you with really people that we look back at and we're like, oh, these are really big names in the breed. But who are your favorite people to meet?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have been very lucky. I've sat at many dinner tables with lots of different influential people. Roberto Tavola, and at the time, I think when I met him, I think he was the vice president of SAC. I don't know. He was amazing, and I learned a lot, and he gave me that time and taught me about the breed, because I'd be standing there, you know, and you know, everyone starts from somewhere. You know, I bought Vigo, I was green as grass. So, you know, and able to telling me the movement and how they, you know, what I was looking for, what I wasn't looking for, was really wonderful. And he's gone on to be quite a big judge in the Cane Corso. And actually before this, I was lucky enough to fly him over, and he judged one of our first big shows that we had. In 2008, I've flown Sergio Alberto over, and we done the Cane Corso Discovery Day in Manchester. And you know, it was a small event, not massive turnout, but there was definitely people there. I was lucky enough to, you know, my owners, my first, second owners, my first and second litter owners, when my rider dies, they come to everything. Bless their little hearts. What I put them through, I have no idea. But they come to absolutely everything for me, and literally gave me their 100% support. But you know, I won't talk about them yet. Just talking about my learning journey. It was Roberto. Martinotti, he was really good. Obviously, there was a bit of a language barrier, and everyone had this thing with Euro Joe, because I speak English in like a European accent to make think that they try and set up.
That's brilliant.
I'd literally have this thing, but it worked. It absolutely worked. And there was a guy I went to in Belgium, and he had a dog called Zelio, and Mark might be able to say who it was, and I can't remember, but he was amazing. Yeah, and obviously my mentors were Sergio and Alberto, and it was wonderful to be able to do that. You know, I think my first dog show was in Ancona, and I had my nails on. I went through a stage of looking like this, not looking like this, and I'm back to be able to have nails and stuff. And he gave me new. Be careful, she's a little bit thingy with other dogs, a little bit thingy. I was like, oh my God. And it was the funniest thing. The Corso shows back then, they would be standing there with their cappuccino, and they would all be, and they just, and they would just, and then just walk on, because it was like kick off literally everywhere. There'd be always like everywhere. Shaka was amazing. Again, someone that gave me that time to explain what I was looking at, just explain different things to me. Obviously, the people that I have mentioned, Katja, she is one of my closest, you know, people to my heart, and she's been very good. And before that, my foundation was every Friday night or every Saturday night we drive to Holland, and me and Jose and Eric would go out for dinner. So for 10 months, I would have dinner with Eric and Jose, and I think Eric was the president of the Dutch club at that time. And
wow.
And literally just talk about his experiences going to Italy, and actually it was such a like a 360, because they flew to England to see my first ever litter.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So Marcus put a comment in on the Instagram, and I don't know what this is about, so you're gonna have to tell us. He said strip club meetup. What's that about? What's that about?
Well, I don't think we should be. So basically, I ended up going to the strip club with all the Italian breeders, and I remember Mark and yeah. So that was interesting in this, and I was in this I hated smoking in this smoke-filled room, trying to understand this half Italian, because there was some bad stuff or big shit also club. I think they were trying to get. I can't say much anyway, but there was stuff going on. I was like dying of like smoke inhalation, but I was there and I was listening. So yeah, we took them, but that, like, they went and they invited me. So yeah, Mark would say that, but yes. One of
That's
the
amazing. How on earth did that come about? How on earth did that come about? That's amazing. So we've had a comment from Jamie. When you come up today, ask about breeder support puppy packs to owners. Something she did very well. Oh yeah, I've heard about this. I've heard about your famous puppy packs.
Yeah. So my puppy pack was something that I developed over the years. Really, what to do and what not to do.
Mm.
And a lot of it was not what not to do. If you're sitting on a park bench and someone says hello, you stand up.
Mm.
People didn't. This all of my knowledge with the Corso, all of my behaviour knowledge was by owning some of the strongest bloodlines I've encountered. So I kind of learned, oh, that will happen if you do that, So it was a guide on what to do, not what not to do. Some people, for some people, I wasn't, because I understood you paid your money for a dog. You didn't want me to dictate that dog's life, which I did. You had to crate train and you had to feed a certain diet. And I wanted to see the dog. I wanted to see what I was producing, because what was the point in not? Because then you're just breeding for breeding's sake, and I was on a mission to breed good dogs, and I succeeded and I failed, like everyone.
So having seen some of the photos of your litters, and obviously dogs that are now in my dog's pedigree as well, I think you did a fantastic job with what you produce, and I absolutely, so at the end I want to have a look through some of the photos that you've sent in so that you can tell us like what's going on and what dog and all of that, because I absolutely love them. I think you did a smashing job. So coming from that, then, temperament, what do you think is the true or the proper temperament of the breed?
So my first Cunner Corso was, for me, a temperament so stable. I just thought they were all like him. He was the most protective, my guardian. I felt so safe with him. He would never shut up. He could do him from the second bit. I always say, if someone farted in the second village, Vigo would be on it. And I never forget the first time I took him to Schutzhund. And I was registering, because I was going to have a BH with my dog. I was going to do all them things, until I went there and everyone was frying their dogs on electric collars, and I just couldn't do it. But I was there, and we was in a caravan, and people walked in, and Vigo, oh, we don't have aggressive dogs here. I'm like, no, that's him. You come near me, and he would do that, and then I would say, okay, and then he'd literally go and sit in that person's lap. You could say to someone, I'd hold him, and you could say like, and they'd go, and he'd, and then as soon as the threat had passed, you let go, and he would be absolutely fine. And that ability to switch on and off was something that was just gold dust, absolute gold dust. And he had a hip score of 39, and I didn't want to be that breeder that bred the dog in their backyard. And because I was so conscious of other influences around, and I wish I'd have bred the dog in my backyard a lot more.
Yeah, I remember that's something that you've said to me about Vigo before, and his temperament, and wanting to have included that. He's an absolutely beautiful dog as well. I've seen the photos of him.
He was very head led. He looked like he was very ugly. It was like a mullet. It was a party in the front. It was something altogether different in the back. But if you'd have put him I did breed him. I put him to my best female, one of my best females, Foxtrot to Fossil Corno, very big female. And it's very strange. Again, it's very easy to blame 12 with his temperament, because my litters were strong. But the two of the most, I think Prez was a pat dog, but two of the most stable dogs produced 2-3 stable dogs, and one that was very, very, very high temperament. So like retracted noses and nose holes, things just come out of the breed in breeding. And it's so like, where did that come? It's so frustrating, because you think I cracked it, and then there's always be something else.
So what are your what you feel like are your big successes as a breeder and a person in the breed? I know there's a lot, but your biggest successes, but then also the things that you wish you had done differently, or if you could go back, you would change.
I guess the success is like on paper. I come second in the World Dog Show with Ada Deborah de Fosacorno. That's, you know, a dog show thing. And I think I took Vanny and 12 to Holland. But of course, my luck being my luck, it was the Dutch Raduno, and 12 jumped out of my full Modere and his cruciate went. So, but Vanny was second under Luigi. And so there's them successes. And to some people, I don't think that there are successes to some people, but for me, they were just moments in time, you know. I think my successes was the relationships that I developed. I was so lucky, and I'm still so lucky, that a man that really kept himself to himself is my friend, and he became my mentor when I became very disheartened with what the FCI dogs were giving me, this licorice all sort of literally every different things, and just not that stability. But also I didn't line breed because I was also scared to line breed, and I wish I'd have done that more. I wish I'd took them the best lines. On hindsight, you don't know what they are. I know now, and line bred them, and just stopped the voices and did the right thing. But because of the health, if you got one, and if you got an issue and you line breed it, you can lock that in. But you can also lock such good things in. You can lock in the pet, you know, the personalities, and that, you know, you can lock it in as the good things. And I should have done that a bit more. But yeah, I think my successes was that I was very lucky to be able to build a community of my owners, and it was, you know, it was very, at the time, it was amazing. They were amazing, and we educated the public on the breed. We used to go to All About Dog shows, I think 2 or 3 times a year, or maybe 3 times. I don't know. There's one at Suffolk, one at Norfolk, one at Brentwood, 3 times, and have a stand there and educate the public about the Quana Corso. It allowed people to bring their dogs and for the public to see pets, because that was another thing that my big bugbear was. You're breeding a family dog, but you're putting it in a kennel. The bigger I got, I had to have kennels, which is the bane of contention for some people. But you know, if you want to do this right and have a program, you need. Unfortunately, you can't have them all indoors. But then I tried to put as many as I could in pet homes so that I could see the true temperament of them, because that's really what people were coming for, was a family guardian, and they needed to be in family homes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So talking about family dogs and pet dogs, dogs that are suitable for that sort of thing, we've had a comment come in saying, I'd love to know what you, oh no, it's up a bit. Do you think Corsos can be therapy dogs, or does that make them too friendly?
If you've got the correct temperament with a Cane Corso, you never need to train protection with a Corso. And this was something that blew my mind, and actually blew the Schutzhund community's mind as well, that it come naturally. And Malinois, it has to be taught like it's a game, but that their natural guarding ability. Vigo at, I don't know, Mark would say 14 weeks, 20 weeks, I don't know. We used to go camping with him when we went there. Would sit and guard the foot of the tent. He would sit at the tent and he would watch, and he would that little, you know, and he would guard us at 20 weeks. So that was I was like, what the fuck, you know.
It's okay, we can say those words on here.
It was a shock to me. It was a shock to me that that they would have such natural guarding ability. So you need to make them as many, you know, as a puppy's, they'll always guard you. And I think this is a thing that people have. They worry that if they over socialize their dog, if they've got it in them, they will always be your guardian. You never have to teach a Cane Corso to guard you, ever.
So on the reverse of that, then, nerve, I think a common problem that is being seen a lot now is very nervous dogs. What do you think about that in terms of whether that represents the breed fully?
I think that I've seen very, very nervous dogs. I've seen I'm not going to mention who it was, but I remember literally there was the most two beautiful brothers I've ever seen in my life, and they got them out of the crate at Raduno, and they were literally nearly shitting and pissing themselves running around the ring where they were so nervy. But that was definitely a socialization issue. So you have the nerve that they need so that they're aloof with strangers, because a dog, you know, a normal dog is going to run and want to say hello to somebody. That's a puppy. That's a normal puppy. Is going to want to bounce all over someone. So they have to have that. There has to be a shred of nerve running through to give them that aloofness. It's there. So it's that you get some that are handler sensitive. So that, you know, if you get a handler that's not in charge, they'll make what's happening here, and they feel it, so then they become nervous, and obviously nervousness and bite, you know, aggression is a quite a close thing. It's the fear, you know, fight or flight. So you have to be very careful with it. You know, I have seen dogs nervousness be from environmental only ish, you know, under socialized dogs, and I have seen nerve be a line thing as well. So you just have to tread very carefully.
Okay, that's an amazing answer. Thank you for that. That was really interesting, because a lot of people, I think a lot of people, and this is a comment that's come in as well, people mistake protection for nerve. So dogs that are confident, they think that a dog is confident because they're barking at everything, but actually it's fear based, and it's a very close thing to.
So I saw something years ago on a guy would be in a bite work thing, and there would be a dog behind a kennel, and they would open the kennel door, and that dog would literally just run away. And you know, I've been to Italian breeders, and feed that one up there, feed that one. I'd be like, you couldn't come to my kennel and feed my dogs. A stranger couldn't, and just walk into my dog's kennel and feed them. Some dogs you could, majority you definitely couldn't. And so there's that thing that they're barking, but actually they would back away. I think the strongest nerve I've ever had, like nerve as in the opposite of nerve, was Rumba di Fossacorno. She was the most amazing female I've ever had. One day there was a firework display, and there was a little Roman candle, and it had fallen and was aiming for us, and she was sitting beside me. She jumped off the chair and picked it up with her mouth and run away from it. She's got out of kennels to protect me. I took her to Schutzhund, and she was on the sleeve, and she literally spat the sleeve out and went over, because she's like, well, you're still coming. And there was a South African guy. He was at Von Wolf Kennels, a South African guy, and he was saying that she had the best attitude of the day. I didn't know any of this, because a dog that does proper bite, they have to do something with their gums and lift their gums up to be able to properly hold on. See, my Vigo was worked in Schutzhund, but he never did that, so he must have bitten his mouth. So every time we tried to work him, he'd cough because he was trying to avoid being worked, because he'd been worked incorrectly. But Rumba, you know, she had a very good attitude. Like, she was amazing female, amazing.
Rumba sounds amazing. That's one thing that I really wish I could just go back in time and see all of this as it was happening, and meet all of these dogs in person and be involved in it at that time as well. I'm so gutted. So gutted. But I'm so glad to have you now to be able to tell us about all of this, and like all of the dogs that you met, all of the things that you did, all of the knowledge that you have. So with your program then, selection for breeding, if you could talk to us about selection for breeding, health testing, what do you think people should be doing to make sure that their dog is a good example of the breed and able to then be bred from?
I kept back numerous females from every litter. I used to have co-ons everywhere. I had breeding dogs everywhere. But whether they made the cut for breeding was very, very, you know, few and far between. Few and far between. You have to look for the whole package. You know, you have to look for everything. you have to be sure of your lines. You have to be sure of your bloodlines. If you've just bought a dog and you don't know them bloodlines or are not confident in that pedigree, I don't know why you would even be bothering to breed that and pass that on. You know, knowledge of the lines, or, you know, speaking to previous owners of them dogs. Obviously, it's more difficult now because of the longer generate. You know, there's a lot more pages in them pedigrees, but definitely, you know, speaking to people with the same lines and stuff like that. I never really was obsessed with bite. Everyone is. I wasn't. You know, level bite, underbite. Obviously, I've seen some underbites like that, and I kid you not. Like, Viola was very interested actually because she had a flat face, but she had a massive underbite. But I've never been. There was a thing where everyone was obsessed with bites. For me, that was the least of my worries. Cherry eye should never be bred from. I would never breed a dog if it had cherry eye, and I didn't have cherry eye in my program because of that. Angulation is a massive thing. Elbow dysplasia. I've had that from an imported female. I never had that in my own bloodline. I did have hip dysplasia, I think twice, and I had one from another imported dog. And it's devastating. Hip dysplasia is devastating. And if you see a dog, you know, that run across the garden and his hips come out the socket, it's devastating. I'd only had him in the country for a couple of months. So people that don't hip score or say that their dogs could run and jump, all this, it's been going on for years. It's sad. Yeah. So health testing is there for a reason. And also, if you were looking there, I made enough mistakes trying to do the right thing, let alone if you hadn't did them health tests and then the dog falls apart. I don't know how you come to terms with that with your owner. But then obviously I kept in touch with all of my owners for a reason, to learn what I was doing. So, you know, the bloodlines, you know, unfortunately, I've done well, that's got this and they've got that, so we put that together. That doesn't work. You know, that the key is to breed as correct specimen as you can find at the time to another correct specimen. If you try and do this has got a long nose, so I'll breed it with a short nose, that doesn't work. This one's big and that one's small, that doesn't work. You know, you need to, and that's what people will do because they'll have, you know, their dog in their backyard insistent on a litter. It's not nice. It's not good for the female. It's one of the most things I've ever been through. Some of the litters, you know, the experiences that I've had, the joy of birth, it is not. And you're female through a lot, and you have to make sure that that female is going to bring something to the breed. You're going to put her through all of that, and you need to know that you're doing that for a good reason, not, you know, to forward the breed on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maisie's in the comment section at the moment. We love Maisie. She so Maisie says, concentrating on one thing, you lose something else. Always look at the whole package, which I think is kind of what you were saying with the breed as correct as you can. Laszlo is asking, what are the first hip dysplasia signs? So the first signs of hip dysplasia.
You know, if you've got hip dysplasia, you know the dog is totally lame. There's you know, there's movement in the hips and there's dysplasia. You know, I had a dog and his socket was here and his hip was, you know, somewhere here. But you get, you know, looser hips, you know, the snake hips. You know, like I say, my Vigo had a hip score of 39, which was very high at the time. I think I started and the breed mean score was in its 60s. And by the time I finished, because I hip scored so many dogs, it was maybe 18, the breed mean score. I put a lot of dogs to the BVA. And he died of liver failure. He never died of hip, you know, it wasn't dysplasia. Dysplasia, the dog is so debilitated that, you know, it can't walk. Severe.
Yeah, I think there's some dogs that I've seen that have have got really high scoring hips but are really functional dogs otherwise, you'd never guess unless they'd done the health testing, but also dogs with really low hip scores that have really poor rear angulation, so it may not be the hips that are the problem, but it'll end up being the cruciates and stuff like that. So
my ones with really good hips were very tight. You'd think they didn't. They walked tighter, maybe because they were rammed in there. Whereas the movement I used to have with, you know, like it was more of a panther movement, like my dog that you put up for me. Movement, you know, that gait. But I've had movement all different. I've had different movements with different things. You know, the hips. That's why you can't just look at it. You have to have an X-ray. You have to have an expert put that dog under. Elbow dysplasia is awful. So, you know, always do your elbows as well, and look, because you can't tell. You can't breed this and this and you get this. It's something that's so changed. You know, all you can do is try and breed the best hips, and historic hip health will always put you in a good, you know, knowing the lines behind them dogs and the hip health.
Yeah, so generationally scored dogs. So even if, for example, say somebody bred two dogs together that weren't scored, but the grandparents are all scored, would you think that that was kind of, it would stand people in better stead than, for example, if they just had one dog scored out of a line of dogs that haven't had anything?
For me, hip scoring across the board. I would never take
absolutely.
Even if it was generations of A. For me, it has to everything. I would never skip a generation. I would always have.
Absolutely.
There are so many things you can't test on. Epilepsy that rips you apart, and you know, there's so many things that why would you not test on the thing that you can actually test on?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an interesting one, actually. So the advent 2 seconds. The advent of my this actually happened to me with my old phone. Funny story. My tripod just fell over. I was teaching Lumi to stack, and it actually smashed my last phone when my tripod fell over. So gutting. The advent of DSRA. Were you involved with the breed when that?
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I thought, well, it might have just been coming out, but 8 years ago, DRSA was not a thing.
So going from, so obviously it's a required thing now for everybody to do that testing. So going from never having had an issue or seen it to it now being a required test. Did you ever see any signs of it back in the day, or was it just something that kind of happened like in the gap and then here you are again now?
I don't know. Maybe you know, maybe definitely there was, but I definitely don't think I had it in my lines. You know, I was lucky enough not to have it. The fact that you know, it's a massive thing now to be tested for is, you know, that it shows you how many just generations or years it can take for something to really take hold of a breed.
Absolutely. So I think Anne van Staveren, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name properly, but she collates the statistics for DSRA, and I think they've been pretty stable now that people have been testing for a couple of years, but the testing population has got bigger and the percentages stayed the same. So I think everybody doing their testing is definitely doing their bit for it. But I fully agree, people should be doing the health testing that's available, because there's enough things that you can't test for that are terrible enough.
Yeah.
We've got Winston, so Natasha, saying that she's had friends lose Corso to epilepsy, which is such a shame. Sky has also asked, let me scroll up a bit. So going back to the thing that we were chatting about earlier, she asked, Joe, how do you tell the difference between nerve and protection?
Right. You just, sorry, I have to think. I'm trying to think of how to explain it.
Yeah, that is a difficult one to answer, I think.
They are acting in a way due to it's the body language, the fear, the untrustingness, But again, nerve can be handler from the handler. Some lines, definitely when I started introducing my Southern Italian lines, there was a line that you needed to be that strong handler. And if they sense that, and the people that were, I had no issue whatsoever, but there were people that definitely struggled. But also, I should have been breeding dogs that weren't affected, but I always think, like my Vigo, what would he have been like in someone else's hands? Wolfie, even it's so weird because you're their handler, and it's very hard when you've got other people handling them dogs to think it's so complex. But
yeah,
you just know. But nerve isn't protection. Nerve isn't protection. A dog that barks, you can just even tell by the way they bark.
yeah,
What is protection and just this ease with themselves, just this, just relaxedness. Never like them highly.
yeah,
Didn't like them. Would not have them. I definitely moved. I bred a couple. I didn't want them in my kennel, and I didn't want them in my program. Just very stimulated. All my Corsos were crazy because you could have run them 20 miles, but you could have a sofa day with them and they'd be absolutely fine. They were like a versatile dog. They weren't this, I've got to take them for a walk. They weren't these dogs that were climbing the walls if they didn't have like 20 years exercise. They were just happy.
20 years.
Just happy around the property, and they were actually, I had one dog, my Amanda, and she actually didn't have nerve, but she was the most aloof dog ever. She was so aloof, but once you were in her circle of trust, she was magical. That was the first dog that broke my heart. She was magical. She was my everything because I wouldn't even have to have a lead. She would just stay. She was just with me all the time, and that wasn't nerve because she'd never. That was just pure, just aloofness. She was like untrusting until she was trusting.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I've answered that question. I'm so sorry.
No, you have answered it. I think I absolutely love the photos that you sent through of Amanda. I think she was beautiful. Again, I'm so gutted. India said it as well. She's also gutted that she couldn't be there to see all of this happening at the time. So I think you've been behind the scenes for a while with us. So do you want to talk a bit about how that came about? Because you've been quiet for a long time and now here you are. Thankfully, I'm so pleased. But here you are. So do you want to talk about how that came about a bit?
Maisie, it's all Maisie's fault.
As everything always is, yeah.
So Maisie, managed to claw me from my, literally, I was like, no! And she managed to claw me out of my cocoon. I've been around different people in the Kennel Corso for a very, very long while. And my retirement was something that was a part decision and part my hand may have been a little bit forced. So my retirement was something that, I cherished very much, and my bubble of non-Corsos. Obviously, I got my Wolfie. I could never be without a Kennel Corso in my home. But sometimes people come along and you know that you need to give them the support. And you and Maisie are such wonderful guardians of this breed in this country, and definitely you need a little bit of Joe.
Yeah, we do. We need you. We're so grateful to have you here.
Yeah.
And we are losing you to America soon.
Yeah, and we've got Nino as our patron, so I'm really happy about that. And we are going to hopefully do our Meet the Breeder historical. So me and you will hopefully be interviewing different breeders around the world. I am going to go and be a breed mentor in America, and I am judging the Kennel Corso National Show in Colorado, which is amazing. So I'm hoping that all my experience and being able to see the American dogs and you know, I've been to Italy so many times to be able to, I've been to America once for the Cane Corso, to bring that working club that's the CCAA that works so well, to be able to put them, you know, a little bit of that with our club, you know, to see that's a good club, and to just push us forward, because we deserve to be pushed forward.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm really excited to go and see what you do in America. And I don't know if they live stream the show that you're judging, but if they do, I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, I know they do the Westminster.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, and then obviously I actually have a very beautiful Cane Corso, so I might show him. I might, I don't know. My involvement, I want to be more of an educational thing. I will never breed again, but definitely I didn't want and you two were the only people in 8 years that sought out my knowledge. And, you know, remember back in the day when we first started, I used to cry a lot.
Yes, there were tears, yeah.
Because I had to stir up a lot of my emotions, a lot of my passion once more, which I'd kind of like, so yeah, I am excited for the future, and being able to just, you know, hopefully guide the people that want to be guided. And you never know what's around the corner that might be more so than ever needed.
So there's India saying, you'll see some nice dogs over there. There's some nice dogs knocking about at the moment. Do you have any specific dogs that kind of around the world that you keep an eye on at the moment? Anything that you really like?
No, I have literally not looked at a Cane Corso. No, I haven't. No. No. So that'll be a surprise when I go and judge. Oh, well, but you know, the quality in America, actually, when I went years ago, was very good. Was very good back then. And I think my last World Dog Show, maybe it was like 2018. No, I think it was before that, actually. Maybe 2016. I can't remember actually. And I definitely noticed that the caliber had gone down there then. So, and definitely in Italian, the last Italian Reduno, I was quite disappointed at the standard of dogs there. So it will be interesting to see what's happening over there. Definitely, you know, it's very hard to find a good dog, which is you know, we've got so many but so little. And I think that people are used to seeing mediocre dogs, that they don't actually understand what the true nature of a Cane Corso is. And it's something that I used to get this feeling of like, oh, it just touched my soul seeing some of the dogs I saw. And yeah, it's and you know, now I'm having to like tilt my head a little bit to see if it is actually a Cane Corso, which is a shame. It's a shame. But you know, it was always going to end this way or be like this in this country, because there just didn't seem to be the breeders. There's a lot more now that are doing, you know, health testing and pedigrees, and you know, I do see a few, and hopefully that will continue.
Absolutely. I think there are a few people doing things well at the moment. Maisie said en una palabra. I do like them. I think there are a few people doing some things well, and there are a number of people who hopefully we can reach out to with education with the club and give the resources educationally to be able to help people to do better. So
the next show we need to open it up to everyone, like everyone is, and you know, and reach out to the people that, you know, hopefully just through education people will realize. I hope so, you know, I hope so. You know, education does make a difference. It made a difference back when I did it. You know, that's why, you know, I was lucky enough to get as many owners as I did, because they did their research, and you know, I'm not saying I was, you know, I had my flaws, of course I did, but I tried my best.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of comments coming through at the moment about so Mark has made a brilliant point. Consistency is what I hope she sees in the US, because that was absolutely the Achilles heel of the UK Corso.
Yeah.
So he makes a brilliant point, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But there's also a couple of comments coming through about Merle. So we have let's talk about Merle. So I think this is a very new thing, isn't it? The mixing in of the Merle. But is there, so what do you think of the Merle, and is there anything else that you see that's now shocking to you? That you've come back in and you've gone, oh, that's not the right colour.
Brown noses have always been, shocking to me. Like, brown noses are not colour corsos, and that brown tingy dog is not a colour corso. Yeah, the Merle thing is very disappointing. It's never healthy. It's never healthy in a Dachshund, let alone a colour corso. Yeah, it's shocking. Merle is incorrect. It should have, even the eyes should be the lightest part of the coat, should be the eye. The nose should always be dark. And once you start mixing in different things, you're going to get a band dog. It's not a corso, it's a band dog. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. What is your favorite color? What's your favorite color, like Brindle. Coat type? Brindle. That's my favorite. That's my favorite too. Brindle. I think that's not so popular. A lot of people are going for the dilutes these days, the Formentino and the grey. But
a good Formentino dog. They are striking. And years ago, to be Formentino, because I don't forget Apex kind of course. I had this litter of Formentino pups. I was like salivating when I could, when I was looking for my Vigo. But Formentino. But actually, you can't beat a beautiful brindle with the chestnut stripes and definitely. And I was lucky enough actually to breed a few reverse blue brindles, and they're beautiful as well. But I think for me, blue, because everyone else loved blue, I never did. Apart from my Bora, there's blue and there's Bora. There's only ever one Bora, and I think she was magnificent.
Yeah, when I was sat there in a pedigree the other day, I saw Bora and I was like, oh.
I know her now.
Yeah, it is so incredible to hear about all of these dogs firsthand. So having seen I want to get onto photos in a minute, but having seen what's going on in Facebook groups and the pictures and the things that people are posting, the general community, the general Corso community at the moment, is there anything that you would say to people that are like listening, watching, whether they're watching live or when we post it up as a full thing? Is there anything that you'd say to people now that you've seen what the community is like nowadays?
In regards to the dogs or the community?
All of it. Whatever you want to say, tell us.
What a leading question, Paige.
We have to get some fun ones in there.
Oh my God, the dog world is always the dog world. There's always like certain different characters in the dog world. I think there is a lot of my dealings with Mad Pam. I hope she's on.
Mad Pam. Mad Pam is like a character now for a comic strip in the breed.
Oh, Mad Pam. I think quite dangerous with the advice that she gives out. So there's a lot of people feel that they know a lot, or a lot of people that do know a lot and feel they need to, like lord that over people. And that's not how you go about it. You need to educate with the carrot and the stick. And we need to, so there's a lot of advice out there. There's a lot of puppies being sold. There's a lot of people out there. And I think people need to be careful where they take their advice from. Because if it's anything like Mad Pam's advice, we're in trouble. And a good community of people, or a good breed club with people behind it that know the breed and are personable and are, just patient, is something that the breed needs. The breed needs a lot of grace and it needs a lot of patience right now. And that's hopefully where I can give a bit of that.
we've had we've had a few people agreeing about Mad Pam. she's like a caricature of the community now.
Grandma, I just want to go and put things on to just like have an experience with Mad Pam. I think I blocked her and then I unblocked because I was like, no, it's too juicy.
I did the same. I did the same.
No, I'm missing Mad Pam.
We've had a comment from India to say she told me I was a vindictive reptile because I asked her what her world famous lineage was.
I think we need to make a "We Love Pam" t-shirt and have it on a live. Yeah,
We'll sell it at the next show.
She's bred a litter, and you know, and people that are new to the breed will think that her advice. I think when I stepped in, which takes a lot for me to even comment, was then someone had an adolescent Corso, and it was basically just put all your valuables away because they're just going to trash the house, and you've got to let that happen. Let it. No, Mad Pam, no. And the crate training was the evil devil, and I don't know, Mad Pam's just Mad Pam. So hopefully I don't litter and shan't have it anymore. But that we need to watch out because there are some people that are gonna really honestly think Mad Pam's not mad.
Yeah, there are some people out there that do real damage, and it's always the adolescent dogs then being rehomed because they've taken the poor advice and they've got a poorly bred dog and they're having all of these issues, and then there's just not the homes for dogs to go to where people are experienced in this breed, because experienced in this breed is not like being experienced in any other breed, and then have the ability to rehab a lot of these common issues that come from that. So it's a really, this is just a breed that you don't want to muck up. You just don't. If you're going to get a Corso, it's research, meet the breed, spend time with them, know that you're getting into something that's within your depth, so that then those mistakes just aren't really being made, because it is devastating.
Sorry, Paige, that is the breeder's responsibility. My first question would be, do you want a guardian? Now, we want a family dog, but do you want a guardian? And if they never said yes, then I wouldn't let them have one of my puppies, because people need to want to have a guardian. And you need to make sure that you put it in the correct home, that you know, they need to be in an environment that is correct for them. And that is a breeder. You know, you need to make decisions for your puppies, and I don't know if breeders making them decisions right now, because what I haven't even touched on is the amount of money it takes to have a breeding program. It is a very, very expensive hobby. It's a very expensive full-time job, and yeah, it's something, if done right, is draining on all things, you know, time, yourself, your bank account, and you know, people thinking that, and the problem is, the sad thing is, these backyard breeders do make money because they just throw their two dogs together. They have no cesarean, no vet costs, no injections. Everything goes, you know, tickety boo, no health testing, and they do make $6,000, which, you know, is a lot of money. And you know, and that's a shame of it. And the people that do it correctly seem to be always the ones in the trenches.
Yeah, what I've learned so far is you don't make money, you spend it, and that's the story of forever. So anybody that wants to get into breeding, it's deep pockets and tissues.
Yeah, and the emotional roller coaster is something that I'm so glad I'm off. I wouldn't be able to deal with that anymore, and that's why, you know, I'm lucky enough to be able to have been asked to come back in a mentor role, because I've got a lot of knowledge, and it would be shame for it not to help the next generation of people that want to be taught.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to just sitting chatting to you is never enough. I need to come and spend a whole day and just like pick your brains. So I'm just having a look at the comments now. We've got some comments. So India said, it's always the ones with the chain lead and the give me space, I'm nervous jacket on the dog. Problem is, the issues are just breed traits most of the time. Yeah, I think so. When people just don't know how to handle the breed, and we've got another comment saying, my Corso keeps barking at strangers, what do I do? So there's a lot of these issues.
Yeah. Is that an actual real comment?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I think she's joking.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, exactly. That's because they've actually the breeder hasn't given them that foundation of what they should be doing and what they should be correcting. You know, for me, any guardy behaviour under 6 months was definitely had to be redirected. Or definitely was, you know, like you try, you know, you don't. Oh yeah, it's growling. No, you shut that down. You diverted it. What's it? You know, there's a birdie. Oh, there's a toy. That you definitely didn't encourage that. Like I say, they are naturally guardy, and you need to desensitize them from that, because it will happen. If you need it to happen, it will definitely happen. You need to be on a mission to desensitize them for the first year.
Yeah. So talking about that then, sorry, I'm going to carry on asking you questions literally all night. What do you think is the hardest age? So having raised a lot of Corsos and having Corsos from adults and having litters, what do you think is the hardest stage?
Day 2, and I think they're going to die. No. I'm weighing them. I'm weighing them. I've lost an ounce. I was very lucky that I didn't have naughty dogs. I did, but you know, I going back to Pam, Sergeant Major, were my dogs like Sergeant Majors? Yeah, a little bit, they were. I was very structured. I think other people had maybe the 6-month stage. There was definitely like there was this thing when I first got in the breed. I don't know if it's still in there. The 18-month challenge was this mythical thing that at 18 months it would eat you. You know, it would eat you. It was like turn into like this dragon, and we used to laugh about it a lot with Vigo. With like, is this it? Is this it? When he kind of like, do you know what I mean? Because I never experienced with him, but I do actually. It's unfair because I do kind of see if they 18 months, if they feel they can, is when they will.
Yeah.
But I've never had it happen because all the other things have been there. So it's never been a thing for me. But definitely, if you don't know what you're doing or dog behaviour is something, you can see the signs. I didn't see it coming. You see it coming. I see it coming. You know, 20 years back, you see it coming. You do. And there's just subtle things, if you know what you're looking for, are there laid out, you know, weeks and months in advance. And it's a shame that people don't get that education from their breeder to show them. And that's where good breeders are so important. It's not just about getting your puppy, it's about the safeguarding of your future dog. Because knowing a breed that you've not owned before, knowing all the foibles, knowing what to look for, knowing, you know, if they go through food aggression, what to do, all these different things. And, you know, there's a couple of times I wish I'd have just taken the dog back. And my gut was like, just take it back. But, you know, you have to also let people be people. But, yeah, it was, it's definitely something you can avoid all of these things unless you've got a very broken dog. You know, you can avoid it. You really can.
So some of your biggest no-nos from your puppy package, some of your biggest no-nos. What are your biggest no-nos?
Though, in my puppy, I'm a total hypocrite. Vigo used to be in the bed with me, you know, like he would like, yeah, you know, if you are a strong leader, you can have your dog in the bed. If you are not, don't. If you have him on the sofa, but you are a strong leader, that's fine. If you're not, don't. You know, crate training is, for me, the best thing that's ever invented. It gives that, especially with a guardian breed, because it allows them to switch off. It's not being cruel. It actually is they will make a bee like that. It's like, oh, thank God for that. They can just switch off. And you know, that's invaluable. Don't go over that, you know, go crazy with it. But for toilet training, you know, I used to say crate, garden, interaction, you know, literally straight from the crate. And if you weren't able to look at your dog, you know, then, oh, I was making dinner, it did a poo in thing, or you weren't looking at your dog. Again, walk, it's there, you can see it. It's sometimes quick, sometimes and you're running out the door, but it's definitely there. You know, they're animals, there's definitely signs for everything. We're talking about negatives, right? So definitely if you are in a pub beer garden or something like that and that someone approaches, you must stand up. You always must stand up. You never should put your dog in a position where it's going to protect you, because 9 times out of 10 they will. And you need to keep them safe. They're not really, we don't need to keep each other, people, you know, like it's lovely having a guardian dog, but really it's a deterrent, a barky dog at a door. We don't need dogs to, maybe we do a little bit these days, I don't know, but to keep us safe on the streets, you know, so you need to protect them more than they protect you. From bad situations, or you're setting them up to fail. And I used to see that a lot. And you know, that the little story, and you know, but everyone's human, and there's an argument that the dog should be strong enough temperament that it's not going to fail, but maybe Labradors are, you know. So it's a very complex subject.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up some of the photos that you sent through.
I don't even know what photos you have.
They're the ones that you sent through to us all yesterday. So you've pre-vetted these photos.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that would be.
Here's where I open a load of photos and you're like, what are these? So I'm just going to open them up. But is there anything that you wanted to chat to everyone about that's watching at the moment while I get those open? Is there anything that you wanted to touch on that I haven't asked? I feel like I've asked like so much.
No, if anyone's got any questions about anything, obviously fire away. No, not particularly. I feel like I've always felt like the Canal Corso needs a community behind it to you know, protect it and help it. And it's just so important, you know, to have that unity in the breed. It's such a complex breed. It would be nice for me to see unity in the breed.
Yeah. That was really nice.
Thank you.
That was really nice. Right, what I will do is I'm gonna, how do I figure this out? Right, okay, here I go. Right, this is oh, maybe not. Okay, let me figure out how I can do it on here. I don't know how to do it.
Should I just see the pictures and just put them? Hang on.
I'm trying to put them up on here. Here I go with the technical issues again. Right, how do I? Oh, I know. I think I know.
Come on, Paige, you've got this, darling.
I'm trying. Right. Okay. Do not share tab audio. Okay, can we? We can see.
Well, that was me last week on the beach with my Wolfie.
I love Wolfie. So tell us a little bit about Wolfie. He's a cutie. He's a cute boy.
There's always a story. There's always a story. Wolfie was my gift. He was sent to me for sure. So a beautiful puppy owner of mine had come to me. Their dog, a son of Vigo, actually had died, and he wanted to get a Canal Corso in this country. I get this happen an awful lot. And before I'd met you and Maisie, there was a couple of breeders that I would suggest, but sometimes I didn't have puppies. But in this instance, I decided that we would go to Atterson Kennel, who is the kennel of my little Lucy, whose mum and dad saw me at a dog show, and apparently I had a good reputation back in the day, and asked me if their daughter could come for 2 weeks on a foreign exchange thing. And she came for 2 weeks and she went home, and then basically she came back, and I think she stayed for 2 years, which it was a gift because I'd had my Calico and she was here and she did the dogs, and she is amazing. She is absolutely amazing. So we chose this beautiful pup, and and I went on with my life. And I was looking at the kennel Facebook page just to see if there was any like new pictures for the puppy. And I saw this little pup, and I have not felt the same emotion for years and years. This little 5-week-old pup, and that was it. that was it. It happened, and I had to have him, and that's Wolfie. I had no idea what I was getting, but I had to have that pup. My advice, now obviously it was from a reputable breeder with a health program, fantastic lineage, blah blah blah. But yeah, and he is absolutely the cherry on our cake of our family. He is a true gift for us. He is amazing. He's a little bit big. He's 71 kilos.
Oh,
he's
massive.
He's massive, but he's my everything. I love him so much. Very different to the other dogs I've had, and it shows me that kind of Corsos can be they're still the same breed, protective and all of that, but so different. Their personalities are so varied as well.
Yeah, I think there is a massive difference in some lines in the way that they present themselves, definitely.
And I didn't know that he had exactly the same markings of my Vigo until like he was nearly here. So my first kind of Corso, he has exactly the same star on his chest.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
That's sweet. Oh, bless him. What have we got up next? Oh, we've got this one up next.
What, my hairy trousers? So
yeah, your hairy trousers, yeah.
So I was at Foster Corner. I'd gone there for a weekend. I think I was picking up, and this was, I think she was like a daughter of Brenda. I think Brenda. So yeah, when Sojo and Berto were coming out of it, they still had quite a few pups, and I just fell in love with her. She went to live with a family in the village, but yeah, she was amazing.
She's so cute. She's so sweet. Is that on your trousers? Is that all her fur?
I think it's everyone's fur. I literally would stay in the kennels for hours and hours, and then I loved it. I loved it.
She's so sweet. Okay, so we've got this one here. I don't know if I can zoom. No, I can't zoom in.
This is the kind of Discovery Day. I went over with my friend Anna and Terry Saunders, and it was a really good day as education seminar, and they had a bite work thing as well. Yeah, it was really good. Meeting all the breeders, and I was there somewhere. I don't know why, and I had to hold a flag. It was a good day.
Yeah, there's absolutely loads of. It took me ages to pick you out in there because there's so many people.
Yeah.
Okay. There's this one.
So this is me and Kenny James from Olive Retreat Molise. This is at Dr. Flavia Bruno's kennel for the Contado de Molise Raduno. I was 7 months pregnant. I had literally constant morning sickness. I may have wet myself a couple of times as well, but it was all for the dogs. And I got to see all the Southern Italian dogs, which was so interesting. And for me to even get that invite was an amazing thing. Kenny was a massive mentor to me, and it showed me that we had totally different visions on the Canna Corso, totally different, but we respected each other's opinions so much that we still could have healthy discussions and learn from each other. And I think that's what the breed is lacking, that you can have totally polar opposite opinions. And I was so blessed that I wanted to use Chicho in my breeding program, and he hip scored him for me. I think he was 0-0. It was like something crazy like that. He stepped into my thing. It was such a beautiful relationship. So that's me with Kenny.
That's amazing. And Kenny, we're going to be hearing from as part of our Going Back in Time, and we feel super lucky for Kenny to be happy to share that with us. But Kenny has
obviously people do or don't, but the Game of Thrones dogs are Kenny's dogs. The Corsos in the Game of Thrones. So to have that immortalized somewhere, I think is see the man behind all of that. I think that would be a good thing for the cub.
Absolutely. And the amount of times where I've gone, right, it's these dogs, and I've gone onto YouTube, I found that scene, and I'm like, look.
The fact that they painted Diana black is mad. It just blows my mind even to this day.
Yeah, that's my favorite party fact. Like in Lord of the Rings, it's when Aragorn picks the helmet, and in Game of Thrones, it's
and obviously not just the Game of Thrones, King Arthur and the House of Dragons. He's a regular in our Hollywood, is our Kenny. So that would be amazing to have his support for the club as well.
It is, and it's like Spot Kenny when he's in some of this stuff himself as well. Okay, this one.
There's pups on the. I can't see, babe. It's just me at the beach. I'm lucky enough. I live like 15 minutes from the beach, so I think I'm with Rumba and a little pup on the beach.
The little pup is really sweet. Oh, babies. Oh my gosh, more babies. More babies.
This was my Presley Dukes litter in my garden. Yeah, they were a lovely litter.
They were so sweet. Oh my goodness. It's giving me puppy fever. I've got enough.
No.
I've got a puppy.
Yes, you have.
So who's this?
This is my first trip to Italy. This is Baila de Fossacorno. This is on my trip that I decided that I was going to have her. Well, actually, it was like Alberto decided what the best female, and it was Baila, and it was Baila. She was a beautiful dog. She was a therapy dog as well. And yeah, that's my Baila.
She's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Was she brindle?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was just the photo.
My mum told her would run around and I'd go there and I'd put this stick on this bit of concrete and I'd put my stick there and then I'd literally go for a couple of months and come back and she'd see me and she'd go and bark because she knew this I'd left where the stick was.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's great. So this is me, Vanilla. I think it's Aldebaran and Cocoon and Cleo.
Right. Okay. So I think a lot of people won't be sure who they all are.
Right. So Vanilla de Pianello, she was a beautiful female, and yeah, she was lovely, my little Vanny. She was a little bit small, but she was a very nice, complex female. Aldebaran was the daughter of Iccgb de Luno and Iccgb de Luna was 12's sister, and at the time when I went to Fossacorno, she was the most titled bitch in the history of the breed.
Wow.
Yeah, she had a lot, and that was Alda. No, I think it wasn't Cocoon, the father. So Cocoon and Cleo. So they were Sanson Deglielmi and Daphne Del Dirium. So they were at the time from a small breeder up in the hills, Marcello. And I saw one of my most favourite dogs on that visit. It was a dog called Tobruk. And I've got a little video of him running around. He was absolutely spectacular. It's a shame that my program, this time, and the sperm things were so hard to do back then. Hopefully reproductive stuff has come on. Even progesterone testing was just so hard. There wasn't facilities then like there are now, so yeah, it was to get them good bloodlines. It was be so easy if you didn't have quarantine. You could just took your female every space and time. There's a lot of damage that is done for the breed that just comes from one place, and you've got these countries just cherry picking a few dogs out. If we could have used every single dog in the genetic pool, things might have been different.
Yeah, I think just bouncing back quickly, I just checked some of the comments as well. So there's those people just commenting. So India asked, what is he to the wither? And I think that was in response to Wolfie being a big boy.
What does he measure?
Yeah, do you know what he measures?
So what was Pam saying that wasn't possible? She was saying something the other day that literally wasn't possible in measurement. She was really
I think it was over 27 inches or something.
Yeah.
Or was it 30 inches?
I can't remember, but Wolfie's like just a bit short because I would have so loved to give her a tape measure. So he's whatever Pam was saying that was impossible. Wolfie.
I think it was 30 inches. I think she said that you will never ever see a 30-inch Corso.
Wow.
And I think Wolfie came in at just under that.
Yeah.
So this one, Ciccio and his children, December 2013.
Yeah, so that was I used to do that discovery days for my owners. if I had like a lot of people asking about the breed, we put on these days. I did 2 at home or 3 at home, but you know, there would be so many dogs and so many people. And you know, it was lovely for Kenny to be able to see, you know, that first ever Chicho litter in the UK and to keep tracks on that, you know. And I think there was 2 litters. There was Rumba that had my first Chicho litter, and then Presley had the second. So obviously we just, you know, got them all together, and we used to enjoy just the days, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So is this Chicho at the front?
No, that's Eddie. I think I can't really see, but it's Eddie, and then there's Luchera, and then there's Kenny. And does he have Chicho there, the third one in?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was amazing.
Okay, and then we've got you at the beach again.
Yeah, me at the beach with dogs.
I think you really like the beach.
That's Bora.
She's beautiful. I think the photo on the main database of her doesn't do her the justice that she's owed. I don't think. I think it's a different photo that's on there because it's the one I saved the other day.
She was that. Even Kenny liked her. She was that conduit between the FCI dogs and the olden dogs. That Alberto said to me once, when you look at a Cane Corso, you should see no other breed. You should just see a Cane Corso. What was that? Yeah. 31 what? Wolfie's 31 inches. Mark just measured.
Well, you can tell that to Pam. Thanks, Mark.
But yeah,
Mark's like the support system in your house. We've got the rest of the team over here.
But yeah, she was that conduit between the traditional older dogs and she was just she was perfection.
Yeah, she's got
and her coat was just thick, like a bear. We called her Bora Bear, and she was a Bora Bear.
That's so funny because I was literally about to jump in and say about her coat and you were thinking the exact same thing. But she looks really nice and plush, like you can get your fingers in it.
Yeah, she was amazing.
It's a gorgeous girl. I think that's the last of the photos. Right, stop sharing. Have I gone? Right, there I am. I made it work. I made it work. Okay, so I don't know if you've got time to sit and take some questions before you've got to shoot off, but we'll give it a minute for people to put anything in the comments that that they want to ask, and I'll scroll back up and have a little look and see if there's anything that I missed. Natasha's making doggy ice lollies for the show. We actually have an announcement to make about shows. I completely forgot. Okay, so the next show date, let me make sure this is correct before I announce it. Gotta double check. So we have to make that announcement in a minute. Oh, my dog's getting annoyed.
On that announcement, and I think there was Jamie had a pup, Rocco, from that Presley and Chicho litter as well, and he was in that picture at the end, I think. Yeah. He was,
oh, really? That's so sweet.
Rocco was amazing.
That's sweet. Yeah, the 6th of July. Okay, so the show, the rescheduled show is going to be on the 6th of July. So we will be posting that up so that everybody can get their entries back in. Anybody that has entered for the show that we've had to cancel today, your entries will automatically get rolled over. So don't worry about re-entering. Just let us know if you can't make it. We're also going to open up a form to make sure that anybody that's spectating can send in their email so that they can get up-to-date news on the show. And then after that, we will be looking at another show around October time, hopefully, as long as all goes well, because we're hopefully going to time it so that you will be back to come and see us.
Of course.
And you'll have loads of things to tell us about America. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay, so I don't think, oh my gosh, there's a lot of scrolling. Okay, so we have someone that's new to the Corso world, only just found this new to the Corso world. is there anything that you would say to a complete newbie, like somebody that has literally just stumbled upon the page, is interested in the breed, and is completely new?
So the shows are a really good place to go and see different dogs, you know, go and see that, you know, because the Corso is so different in temperament, and you know, you need to just decide what one is for you, you know, speak to breeders and owners. And that's why I used to have the open days, because the owners could speak to other owners to know what it was like to live with my bloodlines, because that's so important. Because all said and done, you know, if you get a bad temperament on a dog that's biting your children, does it matter what it looks like?
Mm.
You know, as breeders, you're trying to breed for looks and all, everything, the package, but really temperament is everything.
Yeah.
And if breeders are not going to take the time to do health tests, they're not going to be bothered with what the temperament is, or understand what the true Corso temperament is, or understand when you just start getting issues with that temperament on what to do to, you know, combat that and fix it before it goes too late. Because the emotional investment you have in your own dog, if something then was to happen, it is terrible. So, you know, and I think people don't think of that. They just go and get a puppy. It's always been the same. And I don't know how we're going to change that. But as a newbie, you need to go and speak to people, as many people as you can.
Yeah, and the puppies of, I am biased because I love this breed, but the puppies of this breed are so cute and so adorable that when people stumble across them, they're like, oh, I want one. They look amazing on the internet, and then yeah, you need to know them. You need to know what you're getting into. Definitely. And a lot of trainers as well, I think this is quite a common thing. A lot of trainers really struggle to know how to work with this breed, so having people in your corner that do know is really important, because you can't just go to anybody and ask how you can solve these issues, because it won't always work. So I just wanted to, before we wrap up today, I just wanted to make the announcement again for anybody that's just come in, that we are really lucky to have you on board as our breed advisor. We feel so blessed to have you. All of your knowledge is so important to the role of breed advisor. And you're also going to do that in America as well. So we feel super blessed to have you.
Yeah, thank you, darling. And it's because of you and Maisie. You are amazing. You are, for me, the new stewards of this breed in the UK. And I'm so grateful that we found each other, really.
Thank you. So am I. And is there anything that you wanted to kind of touch on before we wrap up this evening? Or I think I feel like spent like an hour and 40 minutes just firing questions at you. I am so sorry. I just get excited.
No. I think we've covered everything.
Okay, let me just double check that we haven't missed any questions. That we've just got Mark saying that he's going to measure him. That was brilliant. Okay, so I think we've answered everything. Thank you so much for taking the time and spending it with us this evening. I've really enjoyed listening to you. I always enjoy listening to what you have to say. So thank you so much for coming on.
Someone's go.
Well, no, we all do. And you had such, I saw the comments, you had such a warm welcome, such a warm return to the breed. And it just made me so happy to see, because I think there was, through what's online, what is available for people to learn about the history, I think there was a lot missing. And I think you coming back will we'll really be able to shed some light on some of the stuff that we were missing, like a lot of this first-hand knowledge about these dogs.
Excellent.
And the breed.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely. It was very, I was humbled today with everyone's support. So so not in the capacity that I was, but definitely, I want to help as much as I can, if I can do that.
Thank you so much for that. Right, I think we'll let you get back to your evening then. And yeah, it was brilliant to chat to you. So thank you.
Thank you, darling. You take care.
You too. Bye. Bye.